I like it. Let's see
Okay.
what we come up with. Okay, I'm
Okay.
ready. Oh my god, this is
Okay.
so funny. Okay, are we ready? Are we doing this?
We
Real?
are doing this.
Okay, no, I have
All
to
right.
take myself seriously. I'm like a serious actor. Okay.
Of course.
I'll be quiet.
Welcome to the Loud Whispers Takeover podcast. I'm the main host of this podcast and an action actress, also a filmmaker, Cindy Claes.
And I am Simon Maestre. I am currently an international actor residing in Barcelona. I've been super good friends with Cindy since we took an acting class together. So she's like my soul sister. And yeah, we just have lots of fun together.
And I'm super excited to be talking to my soul brother today because we will be talking about some fun and memorable castings we had. So let's dive in.
So I know you just recently had an audition, and I would love to hear about that experience. I just want to know, what was the first initial part of the process? Like, okay, so you get this casting, how do you prepare for it? What do you do? And then you get the call back. So go through that.
Okay, so first of all, I was auditioning for a comedy, and the very first thing that my agent RT asked me to submit was just a presentation. There was not even a script. There was not even a comedy exercise to submit. It was just a presentation of myself. Because it was a comedy, I made the specific. Um, my intention was just to make it very light. So usually my
Mhm.
presentations are kind of standard or kind of serious or, very straight to the point. But I thought, okay, because I'm only submitting just a presentation of myself, I'm going to keep it very light. And I went in full ADHD. I was sort of, going from one topic to the other. And I was just like, free, freestyle it, freestyle around it. And that particular self tape, which was just a presentation of myself, with a very light tone, that was my decision, got me a callback. And the callback was on Zoom.
Okay. So you had to do a presentation. Like, was there a specific thing that you had to present? Because I know you talked about like freestyling. I'm kind of interested in that. Because what were you freestyling there?
Well, literally, I had literally zero information about the project. The only thing I knew was that it was a comedy. And so I thought, and I think I had to talk about my hobbies or something like that,
Okay,
or.
yeah.
And so I was just talking about myself, but I think my hobbies, I'm so attached to it. Like my hobbies are like so important to me. I'm so obsessed with them.
I know.
Yeah,
And you have
like when
so
I started,
many. You have so many
and
as
I have
well.
so many. Oh God, it's horrendous. Like once I dive into something, I just dive into it. Like when I started Krav Maga, I did Krav Maga for 17 hours a
Yeah.
week.
Okay. Sorry, I have to cut you off here because people have to know you're very extreme in whatever you do. Like you're
Yeah.
either 0 or 100. Like there is no in between. You're like, I'm doing this, like Krav Maga, like you said. Oh, I'm starting. I would think, oh, she's gonna take some basic lessons here and there. No, you did 17 weeks. I admire
No,
you
not
so much for that. I
not
do.
17
I
weeks,
really, really.
17 hours per week.
Per week. Okay, crazy. I That's even worse, I think. 17 hours. That's like a part-time job, Cindy. So yeah,
I know.
I just wanted to let people know how extreme you are. And
Yes.
yeah, it's just amazing. So
And I literally do that with every single thing that I get passionate about. And that includes fitness, weightlifting, a new martial arts that I'm starting, any sort of dance form that I start studying. I just dive into it like a ludicrous, really. So I thought, okay, I need to do this presentation for this comedy. Let me just talk about my dog and my love life that isn't working out. You know?
oh my gosh, are you freaking serious, dude?
No, that's what I
I was
did.
not expecting that in the response. Literally. Oh my gosh, that's hilarious.
Well, I thought this is something light that I can talk about. So yeah.
That's amazing. I would have never thought about that. That's actually kind of being really vulnerable as well. So I'm sure that really worked in your favor.
Yeah, and also my dog, like because obviously my dog, he's like my new, yes, partner in crime, in my life. And so looking for toys for him and getting him entertained and all of that kind of jazz, it's another kind of thing I can talk about, in a very light way.
New passion.
Yes. And it got me my call back.
That's great. So yeah, I think that's amazing because it's also probably really different from what everybody else talked about. You know what I mean? So I'm sure that that's why. Okay, so you get the call back. Do they text you? Do they call you? What?
So my agent got back to me. Obviously, I cannot give us too many details because at the moment, the project is still, you know,
Obviously,
I cannot
obviously.
share more. That's why I'm sort of
NDA
remaining very
people.
vague. Literally, it happened a few days ago, this callback. So I got a call back and I received a script with several scenes, but they also gave me extra scenes that I'm not in, but so that I could sort of have a bigger picture of what's happening around me and the place I work and stuff. And so for the callback, it was on Zoom with the casting director and the director of the movie. And
Had you
as you know,
done Zoom callbacks before, or was this like your first one?
I had done a Zoom callback for a commercial during the pandemic. And I remember that, but obviously it was for a commercial, so it was a very different sort of
Yeah,
vibe. And I remember, no, I've done several Zoom callbacks actually, but always for commercials.
the fiction one before. This was like your first fiction Zoom.
Yes, first
Yes.
fiction
Okay.
Zoom casting. Before for commercials, it's super nerve wracking because basically you log in or you enter the Zoom call and there are 20 people in that
My
Zoom call,
gosh.
but nobody has their camera on. They're just like from production and from I don't know from various departments,
Yeah.
but everybody is looking at you, but nobody has their camera on.
Oh
And
my
there's only
gosh.
the assistant that is saying, "Yeah, okay, so welcome, and now we're gonna take this take or whatever." And then maybe the casting director or the person that is in charge might give you a note or two to do it again. But that's it, and
Right,
so it's
right.
super weird because you feel observed
Mm,
to
yeah, I
it's
mean, if you have 20 people there that are watching you, of course you're gonna feel observed.
yeah,
That's
and
crazy.
you just have little screens in front of you, and
Yeah,
it's
you don't even
not a
know who's
human
looking
face.
at you. Oh, I yeah, that sounds nerve-wracking, honestly.
Here for this Zoom call, it was a very different sort of environment because it was the
Okay.
casting director and the director of the movie.
And you could see
And
their faces, right? Like they weren't
yes,
black. Okay.
yeah, and there was
That
a
always helps.
real human interaction. There was a
Mm,
real conversation. There was a genuine sort of willingness to have a creative process, to talk about the scenes, to give me directions. And so, in that perspective, it was like an amazing experience. It
mm,
felt very nourishing, both on a
yeah.
human and on a creative level. I think where the why I had butterflies is I hadn't done a Zoom casting for a while, and also I had this image in mind where all these
Yeah.
people are connected, but nobody sort of looks at you. But then also this particular casting was in Spanish, so my script was in
Oh my
Spanish.
gosh, that's right. You
Yes.
had to do Spanish, which you do speak Spanish, but like let's say out of all the languages, that's probably like where you at with that one?
Yes, so I make a lot of grammatical mistakes.
Okay.
Spanish is my fourth language,
Yeah.
and I'm still learning. Like I mean, I
Yeah,
can
yeah,
have
yeah.
conversations, people can understand me, but I make big mistakes.
Yeah, it's funny because
And
like
so
I remember going to dinner like when we took that class and we were like they were speaking Spanish and I remember you being quiet, which is not like you normally because you're very like, always talking. But I do remember like with Spanish it seems like you can do it, but it's like, to initiate that, there's like a trust thing almost there. You know what I mean?
but and also like in a group setting,
Yeah.
you have to pay attention to so many mouths that are moving,
It's
and you have to
quicker.
lip
It's
read.
quicker. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, and you
yeah.
have to lip read on like different faces.
And different accents too, because like we were with international people, so not everyone spoke the same type of Spanish.
So here, not only was the script in Spanish, but that's fine because there is a script, and
Yeah.
I can learn it in advance.
How
But
many
I think
scenes did you have to do?
There were only 2 scenes. I had 2 scenes.
Okay, so
They
2
send me
scenes.
more. They send
Uh-huh.
me more to give me
To
a
give you
an
context.
idea.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Gotcha, gotcha, gotcha.
But then the conversation prior and after, about the movie, the character, about me and what I do and all of that kind of jazz was also in Spanish. And I think that's what gave me butterflies.
Wait, wait, wait. Okay, so you had a conversation with the director and the casting director during the Zoom audition before you did it about the character? Or where did this
Well,
conversation happen?
they just asked me questions about what I did because they checked out my
Oh,
Instagram. Yeah, they checked out my Instagram.
gotcha. Okay, okay, okay. Yeah,
That's
yeah,
when we
yeah, yeah.
know. That's when we know they do check Instagram accounts. So
They
they knew
do.
about, yeah. Even though I'm auditioning for a comedy role that has absolutely, there are no fighting scenes. There's no stunts work involved. They knew that I was doing this kind of physical work, so they were asking me questions about it. They knew I had a podcast. They had checked out the podcast,
Oh, wow.
so they were just asking me things about me as an artist, really, which
In
which was very
Spanish.
nice. Yes.
Oh my gosh. That would be so nerve-wracking. That would be so crazy. But
But I
okay,
did well though. I did well.
yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I mean, you sound confident about it, so I'm sure it went really well. So, okay, they have this conversation with you, and then you get into the two scenes. Like, how did that work?
Yeah, so we did the casting director was reading for me and I did the scene a couple of times and then they were giving me notes to have a different take on it, and try
Yeah,
different things.
yeah.
And well, that's one of my strengths as an actress.
So
Having done the
good.
Jacques Lecoq, yeah, having
Yeah,
done the Jacques Lecoq training in Paris, like, and also having been a dancer my whole life, like taking notes and being able to apply them straight away is one of my fortes.
yeah,
So if all of a sudden, I have something in my head and you tell me that it's something else,
yeah.
I am able to very quickly switch.
Yeah,
And
you take direction very well, and I can attest to that because I've seen it in action. The same workshop that I'm talking about, that like where we were with a group of people talking Spanish, I saw you like do it for the casting director. I think it was your monologue. I don't remember, but then he was like, "Oh yeah, do this and this and this," and you just like switched it up so quickly. I was so impressed by that. And then he even said, "You take direction really well."
that was when we did the workshop with Luis Canete, no?
Yeah, Luis Cañete. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's the one. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And yeah, no, but he gave you notes and it was crazy because he gave you like a bunch of notes. Like he was like, do this and this and this. And you just took that all in. And like I'm amazed by your ability to process that so quickly. Because for me, like I have a hard time processing it so quickly. So when someone gives me a note, I'm like, okay, but I have to really think about it to get there, and you just seem to like that.
I think I would say because if people, struggle with taking notes or struggle like change changing choices,
Mhm, mhm.
and things that got me there, I think I did a lot of improv, like
Yeah,
in my training. As an actress, I've done a huge amount of improv. And in improv, even if it's comedy improv, it has nothing to do with drama or whatever, and it's a very different genre that we do in movies. It just helps you to really think on your feet
yeah,
and to really be very, go with your gut and your instinct and just to change all the time. That's number one. Number two, I think having done a lot of physical work as a dancer, as a physical theater artist, even if in my head I can't find the difference in my head, or like obviously you analyze the scripts and you show things like that, and then all of a sudden changing your thought process takes time, but changing your physicality can take a second. So let's say that I'm sitting, a little bit like leaning back in my chair because I'm sitting for this audition. I can sit up a little straight. I can just like turn my shoulder a little bit around, be a bit more nonchalant. I can, take a pen in my hand because the pen, I just like work with the pen in a very mean way. Or I can take the pen and, use it in a very sexy way. Or if I'm standing on my feet, maybe the first time I did it, I can feel that my weight was a bit more on my toes. So maybe I'm a bit of a character that is more, you know, attacking or going somewhere or, being in action. Maybe if I put my weight on one leg, I'm a bit more, in between two thoughts as a character. And so when I change my physicality, even if I don't have the thought process, I change something in my physicality, and that will immediately change something in my acting as well. Um,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
so that helps.
100%, 100%. It's interesting that you're talking about this because I actually saw an interview with Tom Holland. He was talking about, I can't remember what actor he was talking about, but he said that he used to hate crying scenes. And this actor told him that what he would do to get into a crying scene was change the way his throat was or something like that. I can't remember exactly what he said, but it was so interesting because it's like your body's natural response to like the way you're using it. And so I think that's amazing because it's like muscle memory, you change your pose or you change something about the body and you immediately just go to a whole nother direction. So yeah, and I definitely see that you're very good with physicality. It seems like obviously that's like an area of expertise for you. So it's really cool that you're able to switch like so quickly with just your body.
But try it also for yourself, like even if
Yeah.
you are in everyday life, if you, I don't know, you go and order a sandwich, just shift your waist balance and see if the way you order your sandwich becomes a very different way of ordering a sandwich. Just
I'm
go to
gonna
change your physicality,
I'm
and
gonna
then the
do
next
it.
day, yeah, the next day, try to change something else, in your physicality to see if the way
Yes.
you order the same flippin' sandwich changes. And you will see, that you might be able to then add it to your acting as well.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's like good like tips for like, just incorporating your acting in your everyday, like order a sandwich in a sexy way, see how that feels, order it in a happy way, see how that feels. So yeah, I'll definitely order probably not my sandwich, but probably a coffee because I order coffee every day. So maybe I'll try it
But you
then.
see, the way you worded it is order it in a sexy way. So that means that you're going to think sexy before you go to the physicality. What I'm saying is put your body in a position and see what comes out.
Okay, so your body is like the thing that is controlling the situation, not
Yes.
you thinking that you're
No.
standing in a sexy way.
Yes. So literally put your body in a position, see what comes out of
Mm.
that position. Your voice, your confidence, your relationship to the world might be different than if you put yourself in another position with a shoulder forward, with your stance more on the right, with your stance more on the left, with your stance more on the back. So yeah.
Okay, good tip. Good tip to know. Okay, so you are able to make quick changes for them. Did they have you do the scene how many times? Can you kind of walk us through like some sort of notes that they gave you and how you accumulated and put that into the performance the next time?
So I did each scene about 4 times, and they gave me like literally once I had to do it in a very different way. Once they picked up on something that they found funny and they wanted me to do it again, but maybe do it longer or add something to that funny moment. Then there were also moments where I had read the scene in my head. I had visualized the scene differently than what they might have visualized it. So then they said, yeah, okay, actually visualize this or imagine this, or your report with this person that you're talking to is actually. So they gave me even more context. That is a moment where, even though when you receive those notes, I could see that they were so genuine and so supporting and so loving and so, oh my God, we want to work with you creatively. But obviously, you cannot listen to that little voice because that little voice was sort of, in my head saying, Cindy, you didn't see that. Didn't you read that in between the lines? You know, because, they
Oh
gave
my
me all the
gosh.
scenes.
Oh my gosh. I know
Yeah.
exactly what you mean. Like it's that little voice that's like it's in the back of your head. And even though like you're in this moment where it's like great, there's still like a part of you that is like, oh, you messed up. Like you have to do it
Yeah.
better. You're like hard on yourself. That happens to me. Like even in classes, like whenever I'm performing in front of people, I'm just like, oh, they didn't like that. They didn't like that because they didn't laugh or something like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And also because obviously we are on Zoom. So there are two things. Number one, the information they gave me, I was like, oh my god, I should have seen that and read it in between the lines in the scenes they gave you to give you context. But when a project is new, you are missing out on stuff. It's just what it is.
And I
And
also
then
think
this,
it takes time. It takes time to like get all of that information and process it into your character. So you didn't how
yeah,
long did you have to prepare for this?
I did have a couple of days, which
A
is
couple of
luxury in
days.
our world.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's a big luxury because you have to be fast, as
yeah,
like you said. And then also like you're learning these scenes, so you have to memorize, you have to do all this work.
yeah,
And most people don't see this work. So
yeah.
yeah, that's probably why you didn't like get every single little detail in there because it's almost like literally impossible.
And then I would say another thing as well, because just before the Zoom casting call, she obviously has been rehearsing my scenes and blah blah blah, and tried different things. But I'm sort of walking around, in my living room and my kitchen and in my car when I'm driving. Maybe you shouldn't do that, but I did it. And then I put, because I had to put the computer, at eye level. They asked for the computer to be at eye level, and I set up my lighting, and then I started doing the scenes, but I needed to look in the camera, and all of it, and also, this character had to move and follow a character, then speak to the character, then move again. And all of a sudden, I started rehearsing with the computer, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm not looking in the camera. They want me to look in the camera, and so, I mean, it's that extreme precision, that I had
Oh,
to,
100%.
yeah,
Because it's a part of the storytelling, like how that character is moving. And how are you going to incorporate that in such a tight space?
I had to kind of look at my camera, and I started, like to move, this upper body, like I'm making sure that I stayed in frame and making sure that I look, at the camera. So it was, like details, yeah, detailed work, and lucky that I did that. And I think I should do that again for other Zoom casting calls or callbacks for fiction. Because commercials, they always ask you to do other stuff, But here was so specific in. So when we had the Zoom call, I asked them again, do you want me to really look at the camera when I'm delivering the lines, or do you want me to look a little bit on the side and that sort of thing? They wanted me to really look in the camera. But because then when you look in the camera, you don't see yourself on screen anymore. So you kind of have to trust that you're doing it right, that you're not, you know what I mean? Like off screen. So it's additional rehearsal that should be planned in.
Yeah, I mean, well, honestly, like when you're on set too, like this kind of goes along with like our job, like we have to be able to like direct our movements and be aware of where the camera is and like have because I just got done being on set, and such a big part of like what I was doing was no, you have to walk here, then look to the right, and then walk here in this certain way. No, a little left, a little more, and you have these marks that you have to hit. So it's interesting that you're talking about this now because in Zoom auditions, you kind of were doing that, but for yourself, so that you could present like this audition in a certain way. And you also have to tell the story by doing this. So I think that's like a really good thing to do for any audition.
The only thing is that on set, it is easier. Because obviously, as well, I'm a dancer. So, giving me a mark and telling me I've got one step to go there and then turn around, and all of that works because you have a distance between the camera and yourself. So you can look at the camera. There is a distance. Here, the camera of your screen when you're in a Zoom call is so close that your space that you can play with, your playing space, is extremely reduced, and that's the difficulty with, well, self-taping and auditioning online.
Yeah, 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 yeah. And it's like it's weird to me whenever they put like something like, "Oh, you're walking along the sidewalk," and you're like, "No, I'm standing in front of my camera. Like, how do you want me to present that? I cannot walk." And then like sometimes I just make stuff up because I'm like, I don't know, guys. I'm just gonna like sometimes I'll shuffle, and that doesn't seem to go over very well, so I've stopped shuffling. And yeah, it's just interesting that, because of self tapes, you do have that limited space and you're almost having to choreograph it, so that you move, but in a very minimal way, I would say.
have you ever seen these influencers that are, changing outfits and are sort of fashionistas, and
Yeah.
they kind of walking on a small treadmill? Maybe we need that,
Hey,
for
that's a
audition.
really good idea, actually. Okay, let me get on the freaking treadmill since you guys want me walking for this. I'm sure it'd be a lot different than many self tapes. Okay, so let's go back to the audition. Okay, so you basically do these takes. They give you notes. You incorporate these notes into there, and then how does it end? Like, how do you feel? What did they say to you?
So what I really appreciated was there was a real creative process, and like I feel in the world of film, sometimes it is also a luxury. It's not in every, um, in every movie that we have an opportunity for creative process. So it was a very human and artistically interesting interaction. Then we talked a little bit about the character, and then, of course, they asked, "Do you have any questions for us?"
Ooh.
And that's another one we should always be prepared for. And I wasn't, but I came
Shut
up with a
up.
question.
You were not prepared for that question. This is a surprise to me because you're always like, you have a list of things that you want to ask.
I know. And then here I think I had so many butterflies because it was in Spanish. But yeah, I did ask some creative questions, around the script and the character and the settings and all of that kind of things. More as a broader perspective, you know. So, but it was a very positive experience. But I kept having those butterflies in my belly like for hours after the
After?
casting.
Really?
Yeah, and even the next morning when I woke up, I still felt butterflies.
It must have been like a very, like you said, very positive experience because I also feel like butterflies is like a good thing as opposed to this like nervousness where like it gets in your way. Like butterflies lift you, they like make you go.
And I think another thing as well that I sort of got present to was I've been casting so much for darker roles, which I absolutely love. But and these action movie roles and bad
100%. Yeah.
cops kind of things, or the
Which you're
gangsters
really
or
good
that
at,
kind of thing.
I would say. I would say that's definitely like your niche, but you have range, which is good
Yes,
as well.
yes. And I think one of the reasons why I had butterflies is I've been so focused on my acting roles. I've been so focused on training on my martial arts skills, and my fighting skills and all the rest of it. I think I had even lost perspective of what the other challenges are that would make me feel excited. And actually, having a role in a comedy would, like it's a total comedy. It's not just my role that is the comedic relief kind of thing. It's like a full on comedy. Sounds like a challenge that would just make me freaking love life and my craft and my art form and the team I'm working with and all the rest of it. So yeah, I think it's kind of reminded me, you know what, the universal open doors, not just about what you want, but maybe there's so much more than what you imagine and what you want that can be freaking exciting
Oh my
and
gosh. Yes.
never lose perspective.
100%. I agree with that. It's really cool because sometimes like we think we know what we want and we're just so focused on that we don't allow ourselves to open up to like what the universe is giving us, which essentially sometimes could even be better than what we think we want. And you opening up yourself to comedy, I think is great because there's a lot there as well that sometimes, like for me personally, I don't like, I'm like, no, I like this. This is the type of character I want to play. And then like you open the store and you're like, wow. And it's exciting because you haven't been there and it's stepping outside of your comfort zone. So you're also growing. And I think that's really important as
Absolutely.
actors. I love that. I love that like you had a positive experience with this thing. And I think it's great that it was comedy because I remember the first time I saw you, it was in Frank's class, and it was a
Oh my god, I did a comedy in that class.
that was your first scene, Cindy. I know you as a comedy actress. Like that's what you established in my heart. Later, I found out that you like these darker roles, but I remember that class was like laughing so hard. Everyone was rolling on the floor
It's so funny that the first time we met, you actually saw me in two comedy scenes in class.
And
I
you were
completely forgot that.
hilarious.
Yeah.
And you were freaking hilarious. So I think it's a good avenue for you as well. Like I think you could take a lot and do a lot with that. I know obviously like we have our thing where it's oh I do like action and I think you do really well in those roles, but it's we're actors, we have range as well. So yeah, it's good that you got this.
Yes, I will keep you updated
Please
about
do,
what.
please. I'm really excited for you, regardless that you did this audition, because it sounds like it was a good experience overall.
Well, well, you know that you're always the first one that will know. You know, you're always the first one that I pick.
I know. But it's so funny because I feel like we both share stuff with each other because we live vicariously through each other. You're like, oh, I just had this audition, I got a callback, and I was like, I was there with you. You know what?
Yeah, it's like when you were on set like last month, and I was just like cheering, you know, living your experience with you because you were excited to work on set with a dream team on your
Yeah,
comedy.
and it's funny because I always will send you like messages, like you're the first one to know, literally. Because I feel like, sometimes like I tell people, and I don't know if maybe it's because some of them are non-actors, so they don't really get like what that means. But like when we get a callback, that's such a cool thing. Like, why wouldn't you like rejoice with that person? So I'm glad that I have you on my team.
And also, I wanna say that it's so important because that's what I love about our friendship. But also, a lot of people often tell me, "Hey, I see my friends, you know, like I see who's there when I'm going through a rough patch, right?"
Mm,
And for me, I always said, "No, I see my friends when I'm really experiencing the highest of my joys." And I see you when you're there to share that with me because not everybody is able or can or want to really celebrate your joys and your successes. Because when you're in a low, I always think, you know what, some people are not equipped to support you in that low. Maybe they've never experienced it. Maybe they don't understand the pain you're going through. Maybe they don't have the right words. Maybe they go through a rough patch themselves and you don't know it. So sometimes, of course, sometimes, people are willingly or, not willing to be there and they don't care. That happens. I'm not saying that. But generally speaking, give people the benefit of the doubt, in your times of lows. But when it's a time of joy, when it's a time of come and celebrate my joy, my life, my success, my hard work, and your friend that you considered your friend isn't there or can't be happy when you're happy, I think maybe there is something to analyze. And what I love between us is that we just celebrate each other's joy. That is also what makes our friendship so very special.
and it's so funny because like we both joke that we have ADD, so I think that's part of our ADD. Like, what? You're happy? I'm happy. Like, it's great though because I feel like you said, sometimes like you have certain people in your life that like if you share something good that's happening to you, it's like almost I don't know, sometimes maybe like they get jealous maybe or like I don't know what it is, but they're not there with you and like you can feel that energetically. I can feel that whenever I tell someone some good news and they're just like they're hearing it, but they're not celebrating it.
Yeah, and that breaks a bond, I think,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
Or it doesn't, at least doesn't solidify it. Should we tell that little story that happened at the airport when I called you crying and you told me you were so happy?
Oh my gosh. That is our bond right there. That is literally our
Right.
bond. Okay,
So
do
I will
tell it,
explain
because
it.
yeah, I forget details, but it was hilarious.
So basically, something heartbreaking was happening to me. My mom was very, very sick, and I was also um, like it was really horrible. My mom had an illness where there was no cure, and I became her full time caretaker, and I had to basically move countries, and I had to stop working, and so I'm at the airport because I have to go and pick my stuff up in another country, leave all the things that I had built as an artist, and so I'm calling you, Simon, and I'm crying on the phone. And I'm like, I don't know how to handle the conversations with our agents. I feel like I'm a loser. I feel like people are gonna not take me seriously. I'm dropping out of every project. But obviously, I have to, go and take care of my mom, and there are all these emergencies, and I feel overwhelmed. And so I'm sending you voice notes, and I'm crying, and you're supporting me, and you're like, no, it's gonna be all right, and you're not a loser, and you're handling it well. And all of a sudden, why? So I'm at the airport alone, and you know when you're alone but the airport is full and you start crying and you're like, no, not here, not here. And I'm just like, I'm in full breakdown, okay? I'm in full breakdown, leaving you voice notes. Everybody in the airport looks at me, but I'm like, I don't care at this point. I'm just having a breakdown. In that moment, while you are basically like cheering me up, something happened, and you announced me that you tell the next bit.
What I forget, honestly. What did I say? I
Oh
don't
God,
remember. I
Simon!
don't
Like,
remember. I know it was like I booked, right? Was that when I booked?
yeah, so basically, I'm
Okay, yeah.
crying at the airport. We do a couple of back and forth messages, like it's a very dramatic moment. I'm in total breakdown. You, as a friend, are trying to cheer me up. And all of a sudden, you're like, Cindy, oh my God, Cindy, I just got booked. Like, our team just got, no, they just fixed me. I booked, I'm on a fiction. Oh my God, it's next, oh, it's in 2 months' time. And all of a sudden,
Oh my
and
gosh.
it was you were so happy because it was a really cool role. You had a lot of dates that where you were gonna be on set, and so I'm crying and I'm enjoying. I'm like, oh my God, Simon, I'm so happy for you. I'm so freaking happy, and
Oh
I'm
God.
full of joy. I was crying at the same time, and you're full of joy, and you're trying
Oh my
to
gosh.
support me at the same time, and it was just like such an awesome, dramatic comic. We don't have comedy relief. It was
Yeah,
just like written for a movie, and I feel like
literally.
that really represented our friendship.
Totally, 100%. Because I remember like it was so funny because yes, you were having like a breakdown moment, but I think rightfully so. Like I would have literally just I probably would have just stayed on the floor, not gotten out of bed or something, because literally you had a lot on your plate. And so, like, you're sending me all these messages. And needless to say, like, I was feeling really good that day. And you were sending me these messages. So I was like, I'm going to pour some energy into Cindy, like all this positive energy that I have. And I kept being like, no, it's going to be okay. Like, you're strong. Because you literally are like one of the strongest people that I know. So I knew you were going to get through this. But it was just so funny because immediately as you were sending me messages, like RT was sending me messages as well. And they were like telling me, you just booked and everything. And I was like, holy shit, like I had so much joy inside of my heart, at that moment. And I was like, should I tell her? Should I not tell her? There was like no containing that. So I had to spread that to you in the best way that I could. And I was like, okay, Cindy, this is what's happening. Because like also I feel like when you're in these times, where you're going through things, you also want to like hear something good and take from that because I think there's energy in that. And then you taking that good energy, like, yeah, you were breaking down, but like you were on a roller coaster of emotions. You were riding that happy wave with me, but like you still had your thing. So, yeah, it was perfect timing, I would say, like something completely orchestrated by the universe because the timing was just like that. You were there, RT was there, and I had booked, and I was so excited about that.
I really, really wish everybody, every artist, a soul brother like Simon in their life.
Oh, you're so sweet.
Okay, so shall we now talk about one of your memorable casting audition moments? Maybe we can talk about the recent job that you booked and that, obviously you shared with me when I was at the airport in full breakdown. You have now been working on set for this particular project, but we're going to talk about the casting process. Okay?
Yes, 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 yes.
So, the first message that you received from our agent, what was it?
When I booked or like when I got the audition?
Audition. The first phases
Okay,
of the
okay.
audition.
So I got an email from Enzo. This was during the summer. So it was literally, I think I auditioned for this in July. And I love summer. So I was on a high. I was on a big high. Like just on life. Not on anything, but life. Just because summertime happiness. And so I kept getting like auditions for commercials and stuff like that. And I had gotten one for fiction prior in June, but then Enzo sends me a message and he's like, "Hey, so there's this movie that's going on, but they want a presentation because they're looking at you for this one character." And so I had done one audition before where it was just a presentation for a fiction, sort of like what you did with your Zoom. So that's what mine was. Literally, it was just me saying, "Hi, I'm Simon," and then kind of explaining about myself, where I'm at. And I think one of the questions was like, "What have you been up to this summer?" or something like that.
Did you make, like I made a very conscious choice to talk about my dog, and my love life that wasn't working out. Did you make a light choice? Or were you just like, yeah, I've been swimming?
The funny thing is, Cindy, that I think in that regard we're very different. That's why I think I like working with you because you're very like you plan stuff out. You know what you're getting yourself into. I'm just like, oh, I'm here. I'm just gonna do something now. Whatever comes out, that's it. So no, the reason I think I didn't think too much about it was because like I was in a very good place energetically. Like I was telling you, I was riding high on life. So and I kept getting auditions. I was doing a lot of auditions, plus, I do castability, so it's like a self tape every week on top of like my auditions. So I was feeling just like keep them coming, keep them coming. I was on this roll, of auditions. And when I got that message, I was like, oh, here's another fiction one. I'll just get it out of the bag, like do it. I'll probably do it like tomorrow. And it was easy because it was just a presentation. What is there to talk about? Like, I did make sure that I put myself in a place where I let them know where I was coming from. And I had been doing a lot of like shorter films um in the summer. So literally this year I did a few short films. So I was like, that's where I'm coming from. So I need to let them know that because that's where I'm going as well. So maybe they want to be a part of that. So I guess subconsciously I made that choice. I didn't really think too much about that. I was like, hey, I'm an actor. Like, I've been filming. This is what I've been doing. And so I really got into like all the projects that I did. That's the majority of things that I talked about. But showcasing my personality, like no, not just being like, oh, I did this. I was very like myself. I was very animated. And it was funny because it was like dressed in all black. And I didn't know it was a comedy. I had no idea it was a comedy. They didn't tell me it was a comedy. So
Oh, you had no idea it was a comedy when you did the
no
first.
idea. No idea, literally. And it was interesting because I think had I known it was a comedy, I probably would have approached it differently. So I'm glad I didn't know, just because I was like, whatever comes out is going to be great. And so I went into it with that mindset, and I didn't hear back for a couple of months, eh? Like, I heard nothing. So I was just like, okay, another one that, I just threw out there, and who knows where that went. But yeah, eventually, like, Enzo did contact me. Like, what was interesting about it was that it was just the presentation. They picked me right off of the presentation. I didn't have to read for the role or anything.
Oh, so you didn't have a callback. You didn't have a
There was no
callback, or you.
callback. There was literally no
Okay.
callback. And I'm telling you, like, for me as an actor, what's really important is to put yourself energetically in the place that you want to be in. Because you don't necessarily have to base it on whether you get the call back or am I doing good? Am I doing bad? No. Like you're an actor. You're an actor. This is part of the work. Auditioning is part of the work. So I had no expectations. I had no expectations whatsoever. I just knew that I'm an actor and I am involved in movies. And that's how I went in. And that's the result you get. That's literally like a manifestation because I did not have to read for the role.
What I'm hearing from you, like listening to you, it's almost like there is a mantra, an energetic mantra playing in your head, which is I'm bookable and I book. I'm bookable and I book. I'm bookable and I flipping book.
And I
And
booked.
so,
Yeah.
yeah, and it feels like that was the energetic space you were, yeah, living.
Yeah, 100%. And the thing is, because I had been on set with these short films, like for me, it's like a mindset thing. What does this feel like? The life of an actor. Like, what is that really? And me being in front of the camera, and having to work with the director, having to work with like the DOP, no, please stand here, no, hit your mark here. All these things is what is required for you to be on a real set. So you practicing this, that's going to put you in that mindset. So I was in that mindset when I was auditioning for this role. Like I know what I'm doing. And I feel like that's really what pushed me to have a good presentation. Because I mean, I assume it was good because they picked me. I have no idea. I hope it was good. But yeah, I was coming from a very like confident place. And that's something that I've had to work on a lot because I tend to be a very nervous person, especially with auditions. Like when I first started, oh my gosh, doing self tapes and everything, I was very like stiff. I gotta get it perfect. And like you have like this kind of mindset, like, no, I need to book. I book. It's not I need. I do book. I know what I'm doing. I am killing this audition.
It's so funny that obviously we didn't even prepare which audition we were going to talk about today,
No.
but I just shared about one that for some reason or another I had butterflies. I felt very shaky. I felt very vulnerable. And usually I am very grounded in auditions. You know, I can really handle stress. And then you are sharing one where you're super grounded, super confident, and usually, you know,
I'm not
you
that
took it
person.
very, yeah.
Literally, we're like back and forth. This is why we balance each other out super well, I think.
Absolutely. So once you booked it, is it in the moment of booking that you actually discovered all the details of this project?
Oh yeah, 100%. It was interesting because I didn't even know what my character was. They were just like dress in all black and present yourself. So literally, I did the presentation, I sent it in, and it was interesting because I went to our agent to go meet because Enzo came in and you had told me about him, and he basically for the people that don't know, Enzo is the one that handles the fiction side of RT along with Natalia. So I wanted to meet him and talk to him and just let him know, hey, this is where I'm at. Like these are the kind of characters that I think I'd be good in. And I had already sent that audition in before I met him in person. But the funny thing is, like, whenever whenever I met him, like nowhere in my mind was I like, oh, I'm gonna talk about this audition, see what's happening with that. Nowhere. And then he was like, so somehow like he put it in there. Oh yeah, I haven't gotten like a no from you for this project that you auditioned for. And I had actually auditioned for another fiction one. And I thought he was referring to the other one. And I was like, oh yeah, that one. You know, I spent hours on that self tape. And like it was not the one that I was thinking at all. And he just looked at me like, okay, that's strange, you know. And now, after booking it, I find out, oh, this is the one I just did a presentation for. And that was like a couple of months later. But he had originally told me, they haven't said no to you. You're not on the list that they said no to. And I didn't even catch on to that. So it was a complete surprise to me when I booked this project because I wasn't even thinking about this project at all. Like this project just went out of my mind completely. So I get these news and I'm like, what project is he talking about? Like I had no idea whatsoever. And that's like when I think it took them about like maybe a week to send in the full script. And once I got the script, I read the project and I was like, oh, it's a comedy. And I don't do a lot of comedy. Like I haven't I did a lot when I first started out in acting, but that was like when I was 15. So and I was known for comedy then, but it was different. You know, I was in high school. Obviously, we're gonna think differently. And I've grown up to become a completely like different person. And so when I find out that it's comedy, I'm like, how did I book a comedy? I had I had literally no idea. And then that came as a surprise because I was like, should I approach the role differently? And I just had a bunch of questions. I was actually really nervous after I booked it because I was like, what if I'm not good at comedy? You know, like what if I just it was the unknown, you know? It's like what you were talking about, going in and stepping outside of your comfort zone. So for me, to have booked that, it was such a blessing. It was such a blessing in disguise because it wasn't the original thing that I think that I had thought I booked. but it opened doors for me. It opened up like because I when I was on set, I was seeing comedy and action, and the actors that were on set were just incredible. And like they were so quick. Like they literally would do some improv at times, and I got to witness that because I was there. And now that has just opened up my world. Like I feel a lot looser with my acting. Like that literally has just made it okay for me to handle any type of role. So it was definitely, I think the universe was like, hey, take this, learn from it, and then start applying it a little bit. So we'll see where that takes me. But yeah, initially I had no idea what the project was even about. And it was a big surprise. It was a big surprise, but the best surprise of the year, I would definitely say. That has been like my biggest thing this year was booking this. So yeah, it was something to celebrate for me, and that's why I had to tell you first.
And so, just to wrap up this interview, are you allowed at this moment in time to actually give the title of the movie, like when people listen to this
Oh
podcast
yeah,
later on?
100%. They're on Instagram as well. It's called Spicy Will, and I think their handle is at Spicy Will uh dot movie. But I'm sure if you
And who's
search
the director?
Chris Hool. So he was a producer and now he's more on the directing scene. He directed another movie before, but he was so cool. He was just amazing to work with, really chill guy. And he was letting the actors have fun, which that's something that I hadn't experienced in that sense. Like, yes, being on set for me is always fun, but there is work behind it as well, and this one just felt it was very like family. It felt like family to me. Everyone was so kind. The general vibes of the set was incredible. All the actors on set were just so welcoming. I don't know, it's just he made the ambience of the whole thing very comforting. And when I approached him initially, like I was very scared because when you first get on set, you don't know who you're working with, or like you don't know how that relationship is going to develop. You have like all of these questions because you are stepping into the unknown. And that can be very exciting, but very like nerve-wracking as well. And from the moment like he approached me, he was so kind. I'm so happy. You have no idea. And I can't wait to see it because the actors in there are so funny. Like my character, he's not like the funniest one on there. Obviously, there's a comedic thing to him, but the main actor's on there. I literally was on set cracking up the whole time. I could not stop laughing. And I was like, sometimes I'd be like, no, keep it together. You do not want to laugh after they say action. And that was part of my struggle because they were so freaking funny. But it was good that I got to witness that because now I will look at comedy differently. And I learned from those actors. I learned on the job, which I think is the best part of doing this, is being able to get on a set and actually learn from that experience.
When that movie comes out, we will definitely do an episode about all your learning. Once the movie comes out, I think that then people can have a reference and watch it before listening to the episode. And this episode is coming to an end, but we must do a part two of our most fun and memorable casting and audition moments because I think it was like freaking awesome, and a part two must come.
Yes, I'm so excited. We're definitely like, we need to share more because I also had a Zoom audition, which was a completely different experience. And I would love to be able to share that with you.
So everybody, make sure that you tune in for part two.
Bye. See you. Thank you, Cindy.